Well, good morning. Welcome back to my workbench. Today in the bench we have a Stihl BR350 backpack blower. The customer says that it won't rev up and it has no power. So today we're going to try to fix this for him. Come on over here and let's get started. Here we are with a Stihl BR350. This unit is from 2022 and this is a 63cc backpack blower. So as you can see outside, this thing starts easy. It runs, but it will not rev up. It'll sit there and idle, no problem. When I see something like this, the first thing that comes to mind is the spark arrestor screen may be plugged up. And that could be the case here, and we're going to take a look at it. But I always look at the fuel. So if you have stale fuel, watery fuel, tons of dirt in that tank, we don't want to just clean the spark arrestor out and send it on its way. So I'm going to start by dumping the fuel out of this thing, but I'm not going to do it on this tabletop because this thing is too heavy and I don't want to spill it everywhere. So I'm going to step over there to the floor and I'll dump this out. There was some stinky, watery, trashy fuel in this thing. There's dirt in the tank. There's evidence that there was water in this. There's kind of a sludge in the bottom of the tank that we'll have to clean out. Let's take some covers off this. Air filter cover. We'll take this whole shroud off. We'll take the recoil off. And we're going to have a look at a few things. Air filter cover, 2 T27s. The air filter looks pretty clean. Let's take the recoil off, 3 T27s. There's the flywheel. It looks a bit different on these backpack blowers than it does on a chainsaw. Now we'll take this big shroud off. There's 2 T27s up here that are easy to see, and there's one back in there hidden, and there's one back on this side hidden. Actually, it was 3 need to get that off. 1, 2, 3. This one over here, I loosened it, but it wasn't necessary. So I suspect that the spark arrestor's plugged up. We're going to remove this. The spark arrestor's in behind here, and those are both T20s. It's pretty rusty. I'll see if I can get them loose with this. I don't think I have a T20T handle. Oh, got the one. Let's see if we can get the other. Let's pull that thing out and take a look at it. And yes, it looks to be completely plugged up. Let's go give this thing a cleanup. All clean. Let's put our clean spark arrestor back in. I see spark arrestors plug up like that for a few different reasons. One could be a person putting too much oil in their fuel mix. I see that happen if a person runs really poor quality fuel. I've seen that happen from a person running a very dirty air filter. Now, in this case, the air filter doesn't look too bad, but we don't know when somebody has replaced that. I see this happen from a person not letting their equipment get hot. You start something, maybe you only run it for 45 seconds or a minute, and you shut it back down again, and it never warms up. Not running at full throttle, just feathering the trigger. That'll do it. Let's pull that spark plug out. And the spark plug wire is broken. There's tape on this, so somebody's had some sort of problem with this, just didn't fix it. That's an NGK spark plug. A lot of oil stuck to it, it's sticky. So while it's here, we're going to throw a new plug in it. Let's get the camera and take a peek down the spark plug hole. You can see a buildup of carbon on top of the piston. But the cylinder walls look good. They probably struggled with this thing up until they couldn't tolerate it any longer and dropped it off here. Let's put a new plug in this, NGK BPMR 7A. Gapped properly. Now we have to repair this. Let's get this thing untaped. So somebody has cut a bunch of the rubber off of this. This would have been all covered. The problem with shortening this is this is made to a certain length, the right length, to fit this. And this can't sit crooked. It has to sit straight, or else the big plastic cover won't fit on here.
I have extended the ignition wire. Don't know if that's how you do it by the book, but it should work. Test of patience. We successfully extended the insulation of the wire about an inch. And it says right in the service manual, do not shorten this wire. This has to sit straight. And it also could be important even to keep cooling air. They plug this hole up for a reason with that boot. So it could be to do with airflow, but either way, if we would have shortened the wire, it would have been sitting like this, and this would not have fit. So anyway, there you go.
There, Tyler got the wire fixed on this. He loves fiddly crap like that. I don't. Let's start reassembling this thing. Air filter covers back on. I'm going to clean that tank out, replace that fuel filter, and we'll put some fresh fuel in this. The fuel tank's been blown out with compressed air. I'll reach in there and grab that fuel filter. And fresh fuel. Well, I wonder if it runs any better. Let's step outside, see how it runs. If it runs good, I've got some leaves for Tyler to blow around. I'll meet you outside. Big surprise, this thing won't start. We can smell fuel. We have lots of spark. You know what? When I had that fuel filter out, why didn't I pressure test that fuel line and carburetor? Let's do it now. Pressure vac tests are hooked up to the fuel line, and we're going to see if this carb and fuel line can hold 10 psi. And it does not hold. So this thing has more than one problem. Yes, the spark arrestor was totally plugged. Sometimes that'll fix the problem, and sometimes it won't. So it looks like we're taking this thing all apart again and pulling the carburetor off of it. So the farther into this we get, it's starting to make more sense. This spark plug boot's probably been off this thing 5,000 times. That's why it's broken. The spark arrestor was totally plugged up, probably because this carb is leaking, this thing is overfueling, and it's just a cycle. Let's get into it. There's evidence this thing had old nasty fuel in it. There's crud in the bottom of the tank, like old fuel residue, evidence of water. The fuel that came out of it was a weird color, a weird smell, very stale. It all makes sense. So the metering diaphragm is in terrible condition. It is the next morning here. Everything has had a chance to dry a little bit so we can see the condition of them better. So that metering diaphragm is in terrible condition. It's so terrible, I'll probably keep it in my sample collection of the most terrible things. It is not pliable at all. It just clicks back and forth. So when this thing ran for us in the beginning, it was probably stuck one way, and then I put fresh fuel in it. It was probably stuck the other way. This diaphragm has a better memory than I do. Fuel pump, totally distorted. You see these crusties in here? That's evidence that water was in this thing. I can tell by looking at that screw that water was in here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the parts out of this. I'm going to clean this thing up, rebuild it, and hope that this needle and seat seal up. Because if they don't, this guy's in for a brand new carburetor. That there is a T8. See all the crust on that screw? The screen has a couple little flecks of something in it, but it's not overly dirty. I think water was the big issue here. Carburetors and water do not mix. Okay, we're off for cleaning. Got a little bit of gasket maybe to scrape off here, and then we'll get this thing back together.
And give this carburetor a clean up. I look down at the seat. It looks shiny. Hard to see that. I think you got a good view right there. Just a brass brush. I'm not going to spray carburetor cleaner on this because check valves. This does not have an accelerator pump, as I can tell. There's no hole drilled here. I'm just going to use a bit of mixed fuel. I'm just rinsing it is basically all I'm doing. Some compressed air. I've got that hole hammered down pretty small, so just gently. If the air was turned on, it would work much better. Very light. Now our pump side. So I will use carburetor cleaner here. So I'll just spray that. Bit of gasket material left. Just gently get that off. Not much pressure. Don't want to scratch it. Really neat set of tools. So this is a soldering pick set. Comes as a 6-pack. I think it's Amazon or something. Has a couple neat wire brushes for a lot of different picks. I kind of like these. Anyway. All right, just blow that off. That is clean. It doesn't touch anything. Just compensator port. That's part of the purge system. Back to the fuel tank. And our little screw. Just clean the dust off it. That's hard to clean. I think carburetor is clean. I'll just send it back to Erica and she can reassemble it. That's the extent of what I do sometimes.
Back over to my table. Let's start putting this thing back together. I've got all my new stuff laid out here. I wanted to show you the metering diaphragm, the new one versus the old one. I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but see, this one is pliable. It has no memory. It's flat. This one, listen to this. It'll just stay wherever I put it. Okay, let's put our new micro screen in. I'm installing an RB161 carb kit in this. This is a Zama carburetor. Well, the guts are back in this thing. Let's hook up my pressure tester and see if this thing will hold. Let's hope it does, because I don't have a new carb here for this. I'd have to order it, and I'd prefer to put this thing back together right now and get on to the next. Before I test it, I like to put a little bit of gas in the needle and get it moist. Sometimes when they're dry, they won't seal properly. Maybe not quite that much. And there. Now it holds 10 psi. So this metering diaphragm, it controls how much fuel gets by the needle. So if it's deformed like this, you're going to have nothing but trouble. This thing could have been overfueling and then underfueling and then overfueling. If I would have seen the spark arrestor all plugged up, cleaned it, and just assumed that was the end of it and sent it, this thing would have been right back here, and I don't like comebacks. The metering lever is a little bit on the low side, so we're going to bring it up a little bit. And that looks perfect. I'm skimming right by it, not touching it, but just skimming by it with no space. Let's put the carb back on this thing. We'll hook up our throttle cable first. And then put the throttle cable back in all its little grooves and holders. And we've got our purge line to hook up and our fuel line to hook up. Pay attention to put all of your lines back in the routing that you took them out of. Okay, so we've got everything clipped back in where it came from. You see all this mess here? I think this thing has been leaking fuel for quite a while, flooding on them, and they've probably got it started and were kind of able to use it until they just couldn't tolerate it anymore. But you see this kind of fuely, dirty mess everywhere. New gasket, that one ripped coming apart. I've got this orange air filter assembly plastic thing back on. As you put it on, you've got to put your coil wire in the right place, the kill wire, the fuel lines. Just put it on carefully. Make sure you put everything where it's supposed to go. That seal came off with this, and I don't think it was supposed to. It's just all distorted from the fuel. So we'll just push that back in place. I haven't put in my 2 pieces of hardware yet. I'm going to get the carb tightened down first, and then I'll do that. And a couple 8mm nuts back in there. In my opinion, if we tighten this orange thing down first, it could create a bad seal for the carburetor. So this is tight. Let's put our 2 pieces of hardware in this orange thing that I'm sure has a technical name. I just don't know it. Do you hear that noise? When I push the purge bulb, I'm pushing air down the line into the fuel tank. When I release the purge bulb, there's fuel coming up the fuel line into the carburetor. The nozzle valve in that carb should be sealed closed. It's not sealed, and that's the air you're hearing when I do this. So basically what you're hearing is the nozzle valve sending bubbles into the metering chamber, and we're not getting a good prime. Have you ever pushed the purge bulb on your trimmer, your chainsaw, your leaf blower, and wondering why you weren't getting a good purge? It's the nozzle valve in your carburetor. So this thing will probably run. I'm going to do my best. As I said earlier, the carburetor is $200 for this, and I'm trying to avoid having to do that. With the nozzle valve leaking like this, we may notice it in the idle. We won't notice it in full throttle. This thing will accelerate and full throttle no problem, but we'll see what the idle looks like when we get out there. Let's finish putting this thing together. I'll put these 3 pieces of hardware in, but just loose until I get the recoil on. Trust me, it will just cause you less problems if you do that. I have tightened this down before completely, and then I had a hard time getting this on. Everything just has to line up together. This is attaching to this, which is attaching to the body. So it's the best way I know how to explain it. There, she's back together. I've got no parts left over on my workbench, so that's always a good sign. The fuel is still in it. I didn't dump it out. I guess it's time to head back outside and see how this thing runs. I'll meet you outside. Well, I guess that's it for this Stihl BR350 backpack blower. A plugged up spark arrestor, a water damaged carburetor, and this thing is back in business. It's on to the next unit. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time.